What if being chosen by God wasn't the blessing you thought it would be? Imagine this: your struggles, your pain, and even the rejection you faced weren't accidents, but deliberate parts of a divine plan. Yes, the truth is controversial. Being chosen often feels like a burden before it becomes a blessing. Are you one of the chosen? These three signs prove it, and once you see them, you'll understand why your life has unfolded the way it has. Most people believe that those chosen by God walk an easy path, filled with favor and opportunities. But what if I told you that being chosen actually makes life harder? That the rejection, the constant trials, and the nagging feeling that you don't quite fit in are actually markers of your calling. Think about it. Why would God choose someone who isn't strong enough to face resistance? The very obstacles you face are clues that He's preparing you for something extraordinary. Let me ask you this. Have you ever felt out of place, like no matter what you do, you just don't belong? Or have you faced struggles that seemed almost too personal to be random? If so, you're about to uncover something life-changing. You'll see how these challenges aren't there to punish you, they're there to shape you. These three signs prove it. If you've ever felt like life was testing you more than others, you're about to find out why. Look at the lives of Moses, Esther, and Joseph. Their stories weren't filled with immediate victories. They were marked by rejection, betrayal, and loneliness. And yet, each of those moments played a vital role in preparing them for their purpose. Here's the hard truth. Those who are chosen are refined through fire. But the question isn't just whether you've been through the fire. The real question is, have you recognized what the fire is teaching you? Because once you understand these signs, your perspective on life will change forever. The trials, the rejection, even the moments of doubt, they all point to something greater. So, before you dismiss your struggles as random, ask yourself, could they be part of God's plan to set you apart for something only you can do? Let's dive in and uncover the truth behind the signs. Many people think that being one of God's chosen means living a life of ease and blessings without hardships. But the truth is quite the opposite. Those who are truly set apart often face trials that seem relentless. Their faith is tested again and again, not as punishment, but as preparation. Are you one of the chosen? If your life has been filled with unexpected challenges, setbacks, and moments where you felt abandoned, it might not be a curse. It might be a sign that you were called for something greater. Look at the lives of the greatest biblical figures: Moses, David, and even Paul. None of them had an easy journey. Moses was rejected by his own people. David spent years fleeing for his life, and Paul endured countless imprisonments and hardships. Yet these very trials shaped them into who they were meant to be. These three signs prove it. If you find yourself constantly facing obstacles but still feel an undeniable force pushing you forward, God might be preparing you for something extraordinary. Perhaps you've faced betrayals, lost opportunities, or doors that seem to slam shut just as you were about to walk through them. It's easy to wonder why things seem harder for you than for others. But here's the secret. Gold is refined through fire, and diamonds are made under pressure. The difficulties you endure aren't meant to break you, but to shape you into someone capable of fulfilling a divine mission. Instead of questioning, start asking, what is God preparing me for? The world may tell you to take the easy route, to avoid struggle at all costs, but the chosen don't get to live by the world's standards. They are called to endure, to rise again even when they fall. Some of the most successful and spiritually aligned people today, leaders, pastors, and visionaries, can trace their strength back to the hardest seasons of their lives. These trials are not signs of failure, but indicators that you are on a path meant only for a few. And this is where the journey takes an interesting turn. If you've been through relentless trials, if your life feels like a battlefield, then there's something deeper at play. Because beyond the struggles, beyond the constant refining, there's another unmistakable sign that you are one of the chosen. Something you may have felt from the time you were a child. From a young age, the chosen ones feel different. There's an invisible thread pulling them towards something greater, something they can't quite explain. While others are content with the ordinary, they sense a deeper longing for meaning. They don't just accept life as it is. They question, they search, they feel a call to something beyond the physical world. Are you one of the chosen? If you've always felt like you were meant for something bigger but couldn't put it into words, you're not alone. This calling isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a whisper, a persistent thought, a deep feeling that won't fade. Maybe you've looked around and wondered why no one else seems to notice what you do. Why are you drawn to spiritual matters when others ignore them? Why do you feel an inner urgency when the world seems indifferent? These 3 signs prove it. If you have ever felt an undeniable push toward a higher purpose, even when you tried to ignore it, you're walking the path of the chosen. Think of Samuel in the Bible. As a child, he heard God's voice before he even understood what was happening. Or Jeremiah, who was called before he was even born. Many of God's chosen feel this sense of purpose long before they know what it means. Maybe you've experienced dreams that felt more real than reality, moments where you felt divinely guided, or an unshakable sense that you're meant to do something important, even when you don't know what it is. This calling makes it impossible to live an average life. You can try, but something inside will always push you beyond the norm. That's why the chosen ones often struggle with feeling out of place. They don't fit in, and they don't follow the crowd. While others chase comfort, they are drawn toward a mission. And that's where the challenge begins, because when you are different, the world will notice, and not everyone will accept it. In fact, being chosen often means being misunderstood, rejected, or even cast aside. It's not a coincidence that you've struggled to find where you belong, because when God sets someone apart, the world often pushes them away. Being chosen often means walking a lonely road. The world has a way of rejecting those who don't fit its mold. If you've ever felt like an outsider, struggling to belong, it's not because something is wrong with you, it's because you were never meant to blend in. Are you one of the chosen? If people have misunderstood you, if you've faced rejection in places where you expected acceptance, it's a sign that God has set you apart for something greater. Look at Joseph. His own brothers despised him, not because he did anything wrong, but because of the favor God had placed on his life. When you carry a divine purpose, people sense it, even if they don't understand it. Some will resent you, some will distance themselves, and others will actively try to pull you down. These 3 signs prove it. If rejection has been a constant theme in your life, especially from those closest to you, it's likely a confirmation of your calling. Think about the times you've tried to fit in but couldn't. Maybe in school, you saw things differently than your peers. At work, you refused to compromise your values while others took shortcuts. Even in your own family, you might have been labeled different or too intense when you spoke about your faith. This is no accident. God intentionally separates those he calls. Instead of asking why people reject you, start recognizing that this isolation is often a form of protection. The world operates on its own system, but the chosen ones are called to a higher one. Jesus himself warned that the world would hate those who follow him because they do not belong to it. So, if you've ever wondered why relationships fall apart, why certain opportunities seem to slip through your fingers, or why you always feel like you're on the outside looking in, realize that it's not rejection, it's redirection. God is keeping you from places that would dilute your purpose. But here's where it gets even more profound. Every rejection, every closed door, every moment of isolation isn't random. There's something bigger happening behind the scenes, something most people miss, because every single trial in your life has been leading you somewhere specific. It's easy to question why life has been so difficult, why the pain, why the disappointments. Why does it seem like every time you take one step forward, something pulls you 2 steps back? But what if every single trial you've endured was never meant to break you, but to build you? Are you one of the chosen? If your struggles have been relentless, if life has tested you in ways that feel unfair, it's because God is preparing you for something bigger. Look at Job. He lost everything, his family, his wealth, his health, but in the end, God restored him far beyond what he had before. Joseph was betrayed and thrown into prison, but that very prison was the path to the palace. These three signs prove it. If your hardships seem almost strategic, if your life has been a pattern of setbacks followed by breakthroughs, and if you keep rising no matter how many times you fall, you are in divine training. Think of a warrior. No soldier becomes strong without battle. No athlete wins without training. If God has a great plan for you, He must first make sure you can handle it. That's why the chosen go through so much refinement. Maybe your relationships have been tested to teach you discernment. Maybe financial struggles have shaped you into someone who can steward wealth responsibly. Maybe the delays you've faced have been about perfecting your patience and trust. It's never just about the suffering. It's about what's being formed in you through it. The enemy would love for you to believe that your struggles mean you're forgotten, but in reality, they mean the opposite. The ones who are truly abandoned are those left in comfort with no growth. But those who are called, those who are chosen, are shaped through fire. And every lesson, every wound, every painful experience has been sharpening you for what's ahead. Because when God chooses someone, He doesn't just call them, He equips them. And if He's been preparing you through trial after trial, then there's something waiting on the other side of all this. Something unique, something only you were created to do. Not everyone will understand your journey. Some will question why your path has been so difficult. Others will doubt your calling because they can't see what God is doing behind the scenes. But the truth is, when God chooses someone, He gives them a mission that no one else can fulfill. Are you one of the chosen? If you've ever felt that your life is leading you towards something greater, something that others might not recognize yet, it's because you were set apart for a divine purpose. Think about Esther. She didn't choose to be queen, yet she was placed in the palace for such a time as this. Moses never planned to lead a nation, but God had been preparing him in the wilderness long before he ever faced Pharaoh. These three signs prove it. If you feel an unshakable pull toward a mission, if doors open in ways you can't explain, and if the challenges you've faced align with the purpose you're stepping into, then your calling is real. Maybe you've always felt drawn to helping others, speaking truth, or creating something meaningful. Pay attention to the things that stir your heart. God often reveals our purpose through our deepest passions. If you have a relentless desire to teach, lead, serve, or build something that impacts others, don't ignore it. The world might call it a dream, but in reality, it's your divine assignment waiting to unfold. The chosen ones don't live ordinary lives. Their paths are marked by moments that don't make sense until they look back and realize every trial, every rejection, and every lesson was preparing them for this very moment. The struggles were never wasted. They were tools shaping them into exactly who they need to be. If you've ever felt unqualified, remember, God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. And now the question is, will you step into this calling? Will you embrace the signs that have been placed before you? Because knowing that you're chosen is just the beginning. The real transformation happens when you decide to walk in the purpose that has been waiting for you all along. Now that you've seen the signs, the question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue to see your challenges as random struggles, or will you embrace the truth that every trial, every rejection, and every inner nudge has been leading you towards something greater? Are you one of the chosen? These three signs prove it, and they are not coincidences, they are confirmations. But knowing you are chosen is just the first step. Walking in your purpose requires action, faith, and a willingness to trust the path that God is laying out before you. Think about it. What if everything you've been through was preparing you for a divine mission? What if the obstacles you faced weren't meant to stop you, but to strengthen you? And what if, right now, you're being called to take the next step? It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. Sometimes, all it takes is saying yes to God's plan, even when you don't have all the answers. Here's a challenge for you. Reflect on your life this week. Look for the moments that didn't make sense at the time, but now feel like pieces of a bigger puzzle. Journal about the trials that shaped you and ask God to reveal the purpose behind them. And if you're still unsure, spend time in prayer or scripture. Sometimes the clarity you seek comes when you quiet the noise around you. But don't stop there. What's one step you can take today toward embracing your calling? Is it reaching out to someone you've been called to help? Starting that project you've been afraid to begin? Or simply letting go of the doubt that's been holding you back? Whatever it is, take that step and watch how God begins to reveal more of His plan for your life. Finally, if this message spoke to you, let us know in the comments. Share which of these signs you've seen in your own life. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because there's so much more to discover about God's plan for your life. Together, let's keep walking this journey of faith, one step at a time.